see. That's a very. You know what, Ron? I mean, that's a good question. For patio repair, we made an effort. The housing folks have said, and Chad is out on vacation fishing. I'm about to take a long one, all right? But the deal is, that is an unanswered question, because that will probably more than likely take the place, as I understand it, from housing people as no interest loans. Get your deal done. All right? So loaning some money, won't charge you any interest, here you go. All right? Because it's a lot to ask for you to fix my house and I have $50,000, $60,000 worth of insurance. I mean, a problem, and you're just giving me the money. I haven't really seen that work. But let's talk to the house.
Thank you, sir.
So I'll just add briefly, what we can do on the next page, and as we update this on a weekly basis, is on an additional column, we'll indicate if we have had contact with the owner or landlord of those units that are looking at rehabbing and having folks come back. That would be helpful.
I want to take 1 minute, and I've been listening to your voice over these. I want to thank you for bringing so that I definitely know that. Can you take a moment to explain who you are, what your organization does?
Again, Sue Waddle, I'm Executive Director of Elam Transitional Housing. We've been operating for about 30 years. We started as a church-based shelter in the early 80s. We were a model for transitional housing here in Hennepin County and for state legislation and federal legislation. Basically, we serve between 6,000 and 7,000 people in the 8-county metro area. So we think we can reach out to the folks that are throughout the metro area and help them come back home if they want to. Basically, the majority of our work is to prevent people from becoming homeless, and then people that are becoming homeless or at risk of becoming homeless, help them get into affordable housing in the community, and then get connected with resources in the community. So as we are working, and North Minneapolis is a significant part of our service area, as we are working in the community, we're doing all of our intakes in the community with providers in the community, whether it's a service provider, a faith-based community. We've been at North Commons till midnight, 1 o'clock most nights over the last couple of weeks. My staff are at Drake and at Hennepin County. So we screen currently, before the tornado, all the families that come into Hennepin County shelters every year, and then we serve over half those families and moving them out into permanent housing.
All right, so here's the play. Who else in this room has a mission or a sub-function that's related to what you've done? Raise your hand. Everybody in the house?
I'm on the housing thing, but I'm also real. But I want to add one other thought. I think that there's not going to be enough money coming in to do all these things that come from the state or the city. But I'm wondering if there's some component within there, kind of like I have said, with the contracts who are working for pay, will give a certain amount of time as well as those community members, because I've done deciding myself on Habitat House for my company, that to help get the community up to speed, knowing that we have limited resources and they're not going to give enough money to help those people get back, to become homeless. But I think a side project to the people who are going to live in the house, as well as community members, is to help begin the building process. Because, I mean, we're not Mennonites, but they do build their barns when they burn up, and I think we can get into trenches and help out with some of that. And the city, on that leg, would be able to provide the needed funds and resources. And I'm not saying that the contractor should work for free. I'm saying everybody give a portion of time within the community to make this happen.
Maybe that would be tied to Mr. Edwards' question earlier about the uninsured, and certainly Habitat plays a role in the community. So that's the next one thought to keep in mind as we do the process. Anyone else on where we are now? Don and James.
I just had two questions. You said that there were a lot of people affected by this story. Sure. You just asked the question of agencies that had the same mission as the zoo. I just want to be clear. No one raised their hand because of the zoo, correct?
Anybody else involved in housing? Emergency housing? Housing? Yeah, you construct houses, but this is transition emergency shelter type of thing, right? So, yeah. Oh, you there? I mean, thank you, sir. Yeah, you there? My man.
Okay, quick question.
Sure.
Half of our board are people of color. Half of our staff are people of color. 80% of our board are people who experience homelessness, including our board president, vice president, and treasurer. Half of our staff have experienced homelessness.
I'm less worried about who you got and the fact that there's nobody here in the room that can help you with the fight. All right? We have limited capacity. Well, what does that mean?
They can't tell them to
Did you have something? Which is?
One thing I want to follow up with Mr. Allen had said about the community. Someone that's been born and raised in this community is Chicano, Mexicano. We must not forget this community was diverse. And it's still a diverse community. Although I love my brothers, African Americans, they are the largest population over here on the north side, but we must not forget the others that are born and raised on this north side.
Absolutely.
The comment was about African Americans. We must not forget those that are on the streets and the cars that are other ethnic groups.
And that's a good point.
Because we can't forget them.
Yeah. My oversight, my apology. Thank you for bringing it to the forefront, Mr. Dominguez. Thank you. Kenya, and then...
Just want to encourage us to be mindful as you're doing an analysis of the structural damages done to the residential property, to include the commercial property of the businesses, whether they're for or nonprofit. A lot of them have suffered structural damages to their building, and their buildings have been condemned, so they're no longer operating. So as you do your analysis from the city or whichever department you work with on what buildings are livable or not livable, please include that sector in it.
Okay, so you're going to have to be part of the business capacity building element,
yes,
and bring that to the table to the forefront. In the back.
I have a question and then a comment. How are we, if we're lost at 5,000, if that's the number, how are we connecting with the owners of those properties? What's the aggressive push to get connected with them and then, you know, have them give information for us? Another thing that I want to say to the racial component of North Minneapolis, we are 40% African American, 34% Caucasian, and then I believe we're 4% Latino, 4% East African, and other things. So we don't have to be, and this is the perception that our community is, let's be honest, it is the black community, and that's the perception that we have. And we don't have to, as black people or as other human beings, we don't have to be, we don't have to worry about offending anyone else from any other ethnic backgrounds. As long as we're respectful about what we're trying to do in the tornado, we don't have to worry about offending anyone. This is the black community. It's perceived as the black community, and a majority of the things that we do in this room should help the black community. So we don't have to worry about offending anyone, and we have to be unapologetic about that as well.
Let me say this. I want to apologize again. Because anyone knows me knows that the last thing I try to do is divisive in any way. All right? And I appreciate the comment that was made. I appreciate our perspectives. We have, the facts are the facts. But Willie is right. Okay? And the commonality is being important. I grew up poor and it don't matter. All right? So again, we're not going to spend any time in this room talking about each other and the color of our skin, right? Or our gender. Not for 1 second. It is not that kind of party. Everybody with me? Yes. Hands up.
Yes. Yes.
There will be people who will come in this room and try to make you out that. You got to go out the door. All right? And you're not one of those people. All right? I want to be clear about that. I've seen too many people race down the drain and get caught up in that. Yes, sir, in the back.
I'm wondering, do we have a committee set up where... Oh, I'm sorry. Eric Rutherford, Connections Enterprises. I'm wondering, are we intertwined with any of the larger corporations that are willing to do different, I guess, functions, donate, like you were saying, like to build up? I know like RJ Ryan or 3M, larger organizations like that. I know a lot of the heads of the companies, and they'd be willing to donate time because at the end of the year they have to write it off and they have to donate anyway. Do we have anybody looking into that type of, I mean, they may not be able to do all of the work, but if you get a lot of people to do some of the work, eventually all of it will get done.
Thank you very much for that. United Way is a partner, but also many of the organizations in this room have robust volunteer efforts and philanthropic efforts with corporations. So that's a decentralized function, all right, that they need to get from their supporters what it is they need to do to get the job done in the lane that they say they're going to operate in. So I'm certain that Pillsbury, Pillsbury, and others like us are turning to our friends and saying that this is what we need to carry out our part. The big volunteer group kind of things, the city public relations department kind of put that together. We saw on TV this morning, they're asking for a board to come out and help get debris up and that type of stuff. That is not a function that we've taken on simply because volunteer management is a job in and of itself. All right? Yeah.
I just want to say something on the conversation of what's going on. And let's not forget a lot of those 5,000 people, let's keep that in the front. I know ain't no way we talking in a racial term, but the composition of the people, even with Elon on here, is a lot of blacks that's being displaced. So I don't want to, and really, this collaborative has been one of the strongest, and I say it again, and I hope that when the communications start going out, that it talks about how strong this collaboration is, the diversity of us sitting here at the table, whether we have disagreements or not. But you got to keep a strong focus, like Matthew was saying. But and Willie, know we African Americans ain't never forgot anything. We the one that end up getting forgotten. That's why we need you to make sure that we keep all the diversity there. We need you to be on our side, trying to keep it at the same level what Louis spoke about earlier. So you got to be able to talk about race because it's going to come up. So we don't need to be scared of it. But this room has been diverse. This collaborative has been one of the best things I ever seen in Minnesota. I've never seen it. Well, I'm sitting at the table. Some people are arguing with. But right now, we all on the same page to bring the people back home. Bring them back home, take care of their needs, and so it ain't no problem. And we got a good relationship, so I just want to put that in there.
All right, get ready to move the agenda. Did I have anybody else? I want to make sure that we're real clear on the framework that we're trying to lay out. We got to get a report on the submission. Robbie Norman, how you doing? Has walked in from Thor. Is there any update on patch and repair? We stopped that all together. What was kind of left? There was a question earlier about uninsured homeowners. Can you give us any update on what we know about them? How many you ran into?
Yeah, but Tim's on his way. He can probably do better.
He can do a better job? Okay, great. We'll get back to that. Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just want to interject something quick.
Your name is and you're from?
I'm Ruth Halbert from the Red Cross. And the reason I'm interjecting this now is because I have to leave for our meeting quick. As you guys know, we've been running an emergency shelter for some of the displaced people out of the North-Minneapolis Recreation Center. And there had been a big push to move from that location as of tomorrow morning. And we've been furiously trying to find another place to relocate. We finally, I think after like 6 calls in there, we finally did get approval when we can actually stay there for a couple more days until we identify another site. I think a lot of the resources like Elam and the county have been coming in trying to help the people there find another place to go in case we can find anything else. But so anyone who's been involved in those conversations, I know this is kind of a microcosm of concerns, but we are able to stay there a little bit longer, but we're still going to have to move to another location as soon as possible.
How many families?
Right now, I think the last count was 4 families, 3 couples, and it was like 5 or 6 single adults. So I think it's like 11 or 12 households that are currently there. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate.
All right, we need 1, 2, and 3. All right,
Thank you, Louis. One of the things we need from the Red Cross is how much actual time we need, and are you getting pressure from the park board to move because if that is so, then we can take care of that. I was at North Commons on last night, and people were kind of really
I know a lot of
about
people
that.
are really upset.
I spoke with Representative Champion earlier about that, getting a meeting with the park board as soon as possible. But what I would hope that the Red Cross could do, and this is right in the framework of the human needs, so often you all come in, you do a good job, but you're disconnected from those people. And those of us who know those people, sometimes you guys give us a stiff arm. Some of the complaints that we got was the food. When you're there for a while, it would be nice every now and then for them to get something that they're accustomed to. And if there is a correlation between the Red Cross and churches, we can help them with that. But our desire is to keep the people there as long as they need. And if you guys let us know, that we can do some of that groundwork for you, because we do not want them moving again until they move into permanent housing.
And trust me, we agree. Shelter moves are not easy on anyone. The biggest thing we've been facing as far as the move is we would be happy to stay there, but the facility wanted their facility back, and this is something that earlier this week we had been talking to the park board, just like, please can we keep staying there. This is already in the third week, more than that now. Normally, we're an emergency shelter, and normally we're done after a couple of weeks. So this is already a little bit abnormal, and they were not expecting us to be there this long. And they have their scheduled activities that they're trying to get back to. Like I said, as of like half an hour ago, I was just told that they gave us a couple more days. But that took a lot of begging on our part. We do have, the staff and whatnot to keep it going for a bit longer. It's just that, again, we hit that where we're being asked to get out of there as soon as we can. And we know that there's a lot of people that have been working furiously to find new apartments and whatnot, but it's not a quick and easy thing. They may have found a place, but it's not available until July 1st or whatever. So there's a lot of challenges there. As far as the food and whatnot, if there's a church that wants to offer to, cook a meal and bring it in, you don't say no. Just let us know. We'll let you right now I'm not catering of it.
Two issues. The first is, one, the park board, and, that seems like a real issue that we need to get Councilmember Samuels engaged with, and Reverend, on top of that one.
Ask Bill to get the mayor and some others on that, and we'll take care of that.
All right.
Okay. Because they've been gracious folks so far. I don't want to give a bad impression. They've been great. But yeah, if there's any...
You did what you were supposed to do, all right? Now, you did what you're supposed to do. While the emergency housing people, I assume, are continuing to try to place these people. The next question is how much capacity do you have to remain in?
Generally, again, we're not a replacement for, a transitional housing that's meant for housing people for months on end. It's not the most comfortable setup in the world. Usually we do it for a couple of weeks. Getting a little bit stretched out already. We're prepared to do it for another week or so, hoping that would be enough time for these families. But again, we're trying to find a place that's willing to let us stay another week. It's not going to be more.
All right, well, that's what the human needs deal is all about, trying to help figure that whole piece out, Bill. So, what we would ask of you by the first of next week, walk in and have communicated with each other on both the operational level about how these people support from the food to the staff and over the long run integration with our faith base as well as social service folks. And also, too, where are we in terms of talking to the park board, right? This is the best sheet right now. We just got to have a little empathy, and maybe that's a strong message that needs to be sent. Right? No. Everybody else speaks. You were next. No, am I right? Oh, I'm sorry, back here.
I spoke with Phil. You sent us the email.
Right.
And I spoke with Phil actually last night and today. And the way that it's looking right now is that the Minneapolis Public Schools have a number of buildings that are closed. One is Lincoln. And they're meeting today at 2:30 to determine how to open it up and how to get that ready for this piece.
Okay, I hadn't heard that yet,
Yeah,
so.
and so I just,
I'm from the school district, and they are meeting right now as we speak, but it probably won't be Lincoln, and I don't know that it will be a guarantee. If the park can stay so folks don't have to move twice, that would be a preferable thing than moving folks a second time to a different temporary shelter before they get to their permanent space. I should be getting a text any minute about their decision.
and I should be too.
Okay, cool. But right now, our plan is to get with the park board, coordinate the services, make sure the people have what they need. The emergency housing people are still trying to move the ball, get them out of there, because that's not the most tenable situation. No, I'm sorry. Go corner and then here.
This may be plugged in a different spot because then he's asking, is there anything else about housing? I was addressing that. Deborah Davis Moody from Adventist Community Services, disaster response. But there's been a lot of expression of need for storage space to store their household goods and everything else, the survivors, for those houses that have been condemned. I know that's going to have to be plugged in somewhere, but it's still a part of the housing issue. So I would like to know how we could get plugged in to help with that. Where would we get plugged in and what would happen?
With the Human Needs Committee, we're going to have a sub-component appointed today, national leadership to take that on and think through those issues. Here, right here. John, you want to move? I'll start.
There's two things. The first thing is on our rules overview. The one thing that we don't have is celebrations or anything with milestones.
Celebrate, how about that?
And why is that important? So when Sean about the written report, that's something I like to see, that's something I can take away. When two bring a report like this, it encourages others to give reporting in an excellent manner, so that's why I said that. Number two, I'm not sure if this is in the news or not. But when people are doing these fundraisers, we do not know where the money's going. And not that we need to manage who gets to do a fundraiser or not. It would make me feel comfortable to at least know if somebody is coming to me or coming to UROC or inviting me to something, that the money is actually going to somewhere that makes sense. And we don't have that right now. Or someone to sanction and say, yes, we talked to this group. It needs to be done.
All right, we have a practice. If someone says that we got a norm and we want to adopt, we got to adopt it, all right? Who opposes celebrating the good things? Raise your hand. Yeah, all right, that's good. Okay, all right. I mean, we got to do that, right? I mean, because other than that, it's a grind. And at the end of the day, you got to feel good about what you do and acknowledge people's work. I'm going to be frank with you, and I don't want us, we were supposed to have a parking lot, okay? And that is a parking lot issue, because it's a stretch. There are foundations that give money to people. I go, why do you do that, right? So, all right, I mean, it's just the way it is. So I don't know how we do that, but let's put it right here right now. Al?
Yeah, because I don't want to get off the housing part. I don't want to celebrate, but I don't want to get off this part about these people over at North Common having a problem with housing, and we don't want to move them. But if you move them into a comfortable area, and I'm wondering, with the human needs of I don't know whether Maxie left, but I think see Pillsbury is here, that the county who's supposed to pay for this, temporary shelter, the resources that the county have that can put these families in a decent place while they're waiting on suing them to do what they say. And I'm not understanding that like you're almost begging the park, which I can understand. The park is summertime. Kids are coming up to North Common and want to get into their park. So it looks like an emergency situation, but the county and the city, I think we should have enough resources coming. We should be, as a human needs group, should be asking them for the resources to make sure that these people are in comfortable places. So, I mean, that's what should be on the table, not trying to force the Red Cross in there for another week. We should be asking for resources from the county and the city to make sure that these families have a safe place. And we should do that right away. That's what the human needs group needs to be doing.
All right,
I'm just saying, I'm not understanding.
That needs to be compassionate. Actually, what you said, I didn't get that the kids are out of school. I didn't get that part. Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Just to respond to that, I mean, the county has been there, and they were with me till 1 a.m. last night. They were there all day yesterday. They've been there all day today. I've been in email with them constantly. We're moving and placing people in housing 2 to 3, 4, sometimes 5 households a day right now. And so on the celebration, I'll bring forward how many we're placing each week. So, I mean, the county's working very hard in using EA, EGA, all the resources that they have and their access team, their mental health team to basically help us get people out as quickly as possible. The thing that we really need is to have a stable place where at least another week to 10 days, we can probably get everyone out of North Commons within that time period, certainly by July 1st, while some of these buildings on Golden Valley Road especially, that's being rehabbed, especially if the city will let the owner open up the units as they get rehabbed. And that's a really key piece. As owners are rehabbing those units, even if they have 30 units, if 10 or 15 of those units are able to be occupied, we need the city to say, okay, it can be occupied while you're working on the other units, just like as you do any rehab on any other type of building. So I think there's some options that are there.
Is that disaster money they use?
Pardon me?
If they using disaster money, the county, or they using?
No, the county's using EA and EGA.
But they got a disaster fund too. That's why I said that. They got.
Well, they're using all the funds that they have available to them to move people as quickly as possible, working with us as service providers, other service providers. I'm not the only.
But you don't know if it's the disaster fund. I'm talking about. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Here's the big picture though that I want to get you to. Now some more elements come to the table. Thank you for providing clarification. And we would have done if you had not had. All right. The fact is, it's not that you're sitting there. There is a coordinated effort to move them into housing. And they're effectively moving them. We've not been updated. We've now risen to this level. Earlier we suggested a coordinated report. But as soon as I said, they can give us continuous updates at this point, even as we try to keep them in one place, while they're working to get permanent housing for them or more permanent housing. All right? Mel, Bill, and then we're done with. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on a minute. Hang on. I gotta get to you, and then we're gonna move this. All right? I gotta get you to another space as the report comes. All right?
And I was just thinking out loud. I'm thinking out loud that is the Red Cross funding this temporary shelter, or the county, city?
The shelter that we're running, yes.
Okay, because I'm thinking, is it possible for you all to get some more money to get a better place so that we don't have this conflict with the park? I mean, it would seem to me that, this is a real live emergency.
Well, we got all that. We're not gonna. That's a tactical issue. We're not gonna fix that in this room. That is not what we do. We are moving the discussion.
All right.
Phyllis Wheatley, here. All right, let's go.
This may be tactical as well, Louis, but it does raise a point as we're talking about the housing, that there is a deficit in the knowledge of knowing what housing is available and how we can make those coordinations for people who need housing. I was at a meeting in Heritage Park, and I know that they have placed some people in housing, but what I don't know is what their availability is. So I'm just saying, there has to be an association of landlords, and somebody should be appealing to those owners about their availability.
The point I was trying to get to earlier, which is really critical, right, is that we need to form this emergency transitional housing team. When I asked who had the expertise, nobody raised their hand. Okay? All right? Now that's where we work, which you pointed out. John pointed out. So we can sit here and say these things, right? But somebody's got to get the work on it before other than some. So who's willing to join them? Bill, Don and then Bill, we got to go.
Two things. I would be glad to take the responsibility of calling the people that had the fundraisers to find out exactly where the money is. Provide a report to this body, and if I have any problems, I can handle it. Secondly, we have a lot of people that are still homeless, and I was thinking about, the City 8 building is empty. Is it possible we can use that?
Okay, I am going to discourage this line of thinking, all right? What I really need, if you're not in the housing business, don't know how to bring the assets to the table to make it happen, because at the end of the day, that's going to be red tape and a lot of stuff being involved in all of it. We need to support Sue, right? So I'm going to turn it over to Bill and the folks from the Human Needs Committee to talk about your submission and what they will do in conjunction to help kind of alleviate this problem for people's critical one on the table.
First of all, with all due respect to the group, China had a serious emergency, and much of it around 5 people walking into the office on our emergency housing. Because she knows those family because our primary obligation as executive director and CEO of Gilbert, she had to deal with it. So she's with those people now. In addition, her laptop crashed this morning. So she's got her IT people into a recovery mode, trying to recover the documents for a 4:30 submission, knowing there's not likely to be an extended deadline. So she's working on 2 things at once. Her able-bodied assistant is here to talk a little bit about the emergency. Let me frame that conversation by saying part of the issue is, you will recall last week that we had 3 to 4 families left at North County. But, as we have said over and over, people who have dropped through the cracks, new families pop up overnight. In some instances, we've discovered some of those people were not tornado victims. They live in North-Minneapolis. They need housing and shelter. How can you say no and differentiate? So those are some issues that are constantly coming up, which requires the emergency. Now what Shonda is trying to do is she's worked well with the Red Cross. They're clearly, and I won't